have a right to teach your children and raise your children up in the faith of your fathers? Do you have the right to teach your children the Bible? Do you have the right to teach your children about God and Jesus? Or does Penn Jillette have the right to say there is no Jesus, there is no God? Does he have the right, and do you have the right to raise your children in your personal faith? Now, this gets really tough when you're talking about faith like Westboro Baptist Church. But the Constitution really only matters when it is tough. But this is not a case that is tough. This is a story that sounds to me an awful lot like the earliest American story. Our founders, our founding fathers and sisters and brothers, they came here for religious freedom. They came here because the old world said, you have to be a member of this faith. You have to do it this way. Remember, the old world is where they were burning people at the stake if they thought that you could read the Bible and should be allowed to read the Bible in your own home. That's not your right to read the Bible. That's not your right to print the Bible in your own language. You'll go to the church, which was a combination of the church and the state, and you'll get all of the information you need from the church and the state. The Pilgrims, who were mocked by calling them Puritans. Oh, you're one of those Puritans. The Pilgrims lost their lives, took any fortune that they might have had. They worked and worked. They were swindled. They were mocked. They were jailed. And yet they held their family together and they prayed to God, find one place that we can go that will be a refuge. Find one place that we can actually stand and just worship God. It is the American story. Now let me bring it to contemporary times. In Germany, they have this belief that you don't have a right to educate your children at home. You don't have a right to educate your children in the way you see fit based on God. It is the oldest battle. And it is a battle, unfortunately, that is now raging all around the world. We'll talk to you about Cyprus in a few minutes, where there is no reason why Cyprus did what they did over the weekend, where they've just seized between 7 and 10% of everyone's bank accounts and given it to the central banks. Everyone. They're sending a message. You don't own what you think you own. That's not your money. You come to us. We have control of it. In Germany, the same thing is being said about children, and it's happening all around the world. And in fact, it is beginning to happen here in our own country. You don't have a right. Well, there is a family called the Romaki family. They're German. They're evangelical Christians. They were homeschooling in Germany. When the German government said, you can't do that, they said, but our religious dictate says we need to. You don't have that right. And if you don't stop, we'll take your family from you. Your children belong to the state, not you. And so they did what everyone since the Pilgrims have done. They fled to America. They came here in America. They currently live in rural Tennessee. They did it the right way. They have their visas. They came here and asked for political asylum because if they're returned to Germany, the German state will take their children unless they dump them into the system where they are teaching them things about God that this family disagrees with. Well, now, our Justice Department. When I've said to you in the past, where will the world run if America falls? America hasn't fallen. And our Justice Department is arguing now that a German law banning homeschooling does not violate the family's human rights. They have to argue that because they're going to say that about Americans. A law saying you cannot homeschool your children does not violate your God-given rights. In other words, your children are not yours. You are not in charge of rearing your children. You are not in charge of raising and teaching your children. The state is. There is nothing that is more anti-American than this. Sorry, nothing more un-American than this. This is truly who we are at the core. You want to talk about a fundamental transformation? When America says you don't have the fundamental right to raise your children up to the Lord as the way you see fit, and that is not your right, we no longer are Americans. We hold these truths to be self-evident, meaning everybody knows them. It's common sense. These are not laws given to Americans. These are for all men, given to all men all around the world. And you cannot violate them. Now, in America, we've set up a system that protects those rights. If the Germans don't want to have that system, that's up to the Germans. But if you come here and you come in the front door and you ask for political asylum because you say, I've got to have some of those rights, they won't protect my rights. We don't send soldiers. We let those people come here and make us stronger because too many of us have forgotten it. Homeschooling families in America should be paying attention to this case. But every American should be paying attention to this case because this is the end of America as we know it if our Justice Department stands and wins. Our Justice Department is fighting to have the family sent back. We tried to get the family on the phone. The Blaze has been on this story now for a few weeks. And we tried to get the family on the phone, but because they're in the fight literally for their children and for their lives, we're only going to speak to their representation. This is Michael Ferris. He's the chairman of HSLDA, the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, who is funding the legal defense against the Justice Department. Michael, how are you, sir?
Fine, Glenn, and good to be with you.
Have I misstated this case at all?
No, you stated it very well, and I'm going to do the oral argument for the family before the Sixth Circuit, and you just give me some good ideas on how to begin the oral argument. It was a great intro.
So, Michael, help me out on, is this family, are they kooks? Are they teaching? Is it Westboro Baptist Church kind of stuff?
No, they're very much like your friend David Barton. I mean, they're right down the center, evangelical Christians. There are millions and millions of Americans just like them.
Okay, so you might not want to use that in your defense because, remember, he has been called a radical. He's on a radical, dangerous watch list.
Yeah. That list is an honor to be on, frankly.
Yeah, no, I know. I'm a little disappointed my name's not on that list yet. Yeah. So, Michael, tell me how out of the norm, especially from an administration that just let how many thousands of illegals just release them. How out of the norm is this for our Justice Department to come and stand against this family?
It's baffling, frankly, and no one can figure out why they're so motivated to take this family on, because especially the initial immigration judge ruled in their favor. That's the toughest hurdle in any immigration case, is to win that initial battle. That's kind of the factual battle. And after that, it's what does the law mean? And they won the factual battle. It's very clear. They're a good, upright family, and they were, in fact, homeschooling for religious reasons. And the judge said they are being denied religious freedom by the German ban of homeschooling. Interestingly enough, of course, the German law in question was enacted during the Third Reich of Adolf Hitler, and the German government hasn't adjusted it.
And Michael, they're in real peril of their children being taken from them if they were to be sent back to Germany, isn't that right?
That's correct. The German government has come after all the homeschooling families that they've discovered in the country. There's probably less than 500 people that are brave enough to even attempt this in Germany.
Yeah, it's obviously illegal, and I just saw the number was at 400 is what they estimate. 400 people homeschool.
Yeah, something in that camp, and
God bless them.
They fine you, they jail you, but ultimately at the end of the day, they remove your children from your custody. That's the progression. And this family had been fined substantially. Mm-hmm. The police had shown up at their house and taken their children to the public schools. And they were well down the road, and the threats were coming. We will remove custody of your family if you don't relent.
So Germany's stance here is that this is one of the good things Hitler did, and we're standing by that.
Well, they ignore the fact that it's of that derivation, but
sure.
But functionally, that's correct.
Okay, so Michael, I'm sure that you're being kind when you say people are baffled by why this administration is doing this. As we get into Common Core and we see the data collection on our children that they are planning, there is no way that homeschooling is going to be allowed. There's no way that this country is going to allow you to deviate and actually raise your children the way you want to raise your children. I mean, it makes sense to me. Isn't the Justice Department, by arguing that the German law banning homeschooling does not violate the family's human rights, doesn't that fundamentally transform the United States of America? If they win that battle here, will they not then have a card and a way to strengthen that argument in later battles against the American people?
Absolutely correct. Human rights is really equivalent to constitutional rights in this particular context. We will not survive this as a nation if the government wins. And it's even more insidious than might be apparent, because their contention is not only are parental rights not valid, not only is religious freedom not valid on an individual basis, but they really take the position that no individual liberty is a subject of human rights protection. The only thing that qualifies you for asylum, our government is arguing, is if your group is discriminated against. They don't care about individual liberty at all. They write it off in the way they argue this particular case. And they say this family has no liberty because they don't belong to a church that forces them to homeschool. Other Christians don't homeschool in Germany. Other Christians don't homeschool in the United States. And so unless it's some kind of a group action, this government doesn't get it. But our law and human rights law is based on two principles: individual liberty and equal protection. Well, they've just thrown individual liberty out of the equation entirely, both for human rights law and arguably for American law as well. I mean, they're setting a precedent that's incredibly dangerous. They don't really believe in individual liberty, and they're doing everything they can to stomp it out.
Okay. Michael, you guys are an organization that is on the front lines of this. We are grateful that you are doing it and standing there, and you're willing to take on the case. My wife and I started a charity called Mercury One a few years ago, and we tried to put our money where our mouth is, and Mercury One is going to be making a $50,000 donation to your firm to be able to help you fight it. And also, if it's not posted yet, it will be posted in a few minutes. Mercury1.org, 100% of the proceeds, if you donate to Mercury One, we will have a donate box. You'll be able to donate right directly to HSLDA for this defense, and 100% of the proceeds will go to this defense. And if they have too much money at the end, it will stay with HSLDA to fight and strengthen homeschooling causes and freedom of conscience. And I urge you now, if you believe in individual freedom, and if you understand that this administration is not screwing around, and this is the first, I can't even say first, this is one of the many steps that they are taking to take away your right to parent your child and make the decisions of education for your child. This is an extraordinarily important case, and we need to give all of the resources and the tools that we possibly can to the people who are on the front lines. HSLDA.org. Or if you want easier way for you to remember, if you're not at your computer now, go to mercury1.org. They will have a box on the front page. You click on that. If it's for this particular one, if it goes in the general fund, I can't make that promise. But if you go to the box and it says for the homeschooling, 100% of the proceeds will go to HSLDA. Michael, thank you.
Thank you, Glenn. That's an incredible amount of support, and we really deeply appreciate it. We've got a lot of battles like this, and we really appreciate your help.
Michael, if you will keep us informed every step of the way, I want you to. We didn't tell you beforehand before you went on the air, but I wanted to send a very clear message to you and your organization and all those who are fighting with you on this. We are behind you 110%. We're putting our money where our mouth is. And you look to us as an ally, not only financially, but you look to us as an ally in the reporting of this on the Blaze and on our television network and on our radio show and our radio network as well.
Thank you so very much.
You
really
bet,
appreciate your partnership.
God bless. Thank you. Mercury1.org. I can't tell you that there are several warning signs that have come up. I wrote another letter to my children last night that I think you need to be aware of, and it revolves around Cyprus. But we are seeing now the game has changed, and we said elections have consequences, and these